So, the other day I was scrolling Reddit and I saw this Reddit post that was called "Stop Saying Players Miss." And I did a quick read through of it because it's not very long, and I thought it was very interesting, and I thought we could just kind of yap about it. So, hope you guys enjoyed the video today, and let's check out the Reddit post.
Riser, double.
I take how much damage? So, what does the Reddit post say? Top of the tank caption says, "Stop saying players miss," in all caps. I feel as though describing every failed attack roll as a miss can weaken an otherwise exciting battle. They should be dodged by the enemy, blocked by their shields, glance off their armor, be deflected by some magic, or some other method that means the enemy stopped the attack, rather than the player missed the attack. This should be true, especially if the player is using a melee weapon. If you're within striking distance with a sword, it's harder to miss than it is to hit. Saying the player walks up and their attack just randomly swings over the enemy's head is honestly just lame, and makes the player's character seem foolish and unskilled. Critical failures can be an exception, and with ranged attacks it's more excusable, but in general, I believe that attacks should be seldom described as missing. And I fucking love this. I absolutely adore this mindset, and I wanted to make a full video on it because in my opinion, this is something that this is like one of the most common dungeon master mistakes. I feel like a lot of people who decide to become a dungeon master really don't fully grasp what it means to be one. They think that you just open a book or open your notes and start saying, that hits, that misses, that does this. Part of playing Dungeons and Dragons is playing into your imagination, the flavor of everything. How do things happen? Because when you watch a movie, like this person said, it would be boring if every swing just hit thin goddamn air. Now, that's actually the part of the dice roll that you can use to your advantage. AC, or armor class, is not just how hard you are to hit, it's how hard you are to damage. And some characters, some creatures, some everything, all play a different part in how hard they are to damage. So for example, a monk has their AC usually tied to their wisdom and dexterity stats. And you might be kind of confused as to why that is. Well, it's because what the monk is doing is dodging attacks. So they are deflecting the arrows, they are bending around the spear that's coming after them, they are doing, backflips and shit like that. But your barbarian has their constitution and their dexterity as a part of their armor class. So what they're doing is they're ducking and weaving around attacks, but they're also taking swords directly to the chest. And it is so much cooler for your barbarian character if you say, you feel the blade come across your chest, but nothing happens to you. A small bit of blood drops and you grin, as the damage has not been done. That is so cool to feel. Another thing that you could do is whenever your players are actively fighting something, say they are fighting a guard with a shield, and they roll to attack, but their attack misses the guard's AC by 1. You say that you go to swing down and the guard raises their shield and you feel the impact of their shield. The guard buckles just a tad, but is able to toss you back and make you stumble a little bit as the battle rages on. There's so many different ways for you to describe ways to miss. You could do things like having this character's sword cling off of a nearby rock or tree. If you're using arranged characters, there's vastly different amounts of ways for you to do this. You could say that the arrow was about to hit its target, but at the last minute, the guard raised his shield, or the goblin ducked down. You don't just have to say it missed or you missed. You could say that the character dodged and weaved out of the way. These are all very vastly different ways, but I think that this entire conversation opens up a different conversation to be had with a lot of people. And that's flavoring every fight in different ways. I think that one of the things that's missing from combat and why so many people find combat boring is because there's a lot of flavors that people just don't utilize. For example, if somebody gets hit with a scorching ray, You might say the 3 rays shoot from your fingers and hit the person, all 3 of them in the chest, and they stumble backwards. But then what? Maybe you could follow that up with, you can smell burning cloth as the bandits' clothes begin to singe from the scorching rays, burn marks on their body. If you're doing something like, say, thunderclap, you can say everybody's ears ring as they hear the massive boom, and all of the creatures around you shake as the sound enters their ears as they're too close. Things like flavoring a fight really help. If a character moves up to attack somebody, you might say you run with both your hands grasping your sword as you swing from right to left and take an entire chunk out of the goblin. There's so many different ways that you can describe combat, and I feel like a lot of people just don't use their imaginations enough. When describing combat, it's not only important to describe the misses, but also describing the hits as well. Describing the way a character dodges or a way the character raises their shield. Describing the toughness of the orc skin that they're fighting, or the massive size of the giant as it moves over them. These kind of things really enhance the way a battle works, and it really adds a lot to what you're doing as a DM. I think, personally, that if you're going to be a dungeon master, you need to learn the art of flavor and theatrics. You have to pretend like you're writing a book. You're not able to give people complete visuals all the time, most of the time. You're not making a movie, you're telling a story. So make sure you utilize that. But that's all I have for you guys today. Hope you enjoyed it. I do like to scroll Reddit sometimes, so sometimes I might do this in the future. We haven't done another D&D horror stories, and I have had people asking me for those. The problem is that there's so many people out there that do D&D horror stories, and while I'm sure I could add my own inputs, and maybe they'll be unique, maybe they won't be, I also just, that's content I would rather consume than create, if that makes sense. But I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. I love you all so much, and I will see you in the next one.